Good morning.
Good morning again.
Good to see you. We've got a few more minutes. Let's see what happens.
Okay.
You feeling okay?
Yeah.
All good. Okay. Good morning, Yvette.
Good morning. Good morning.
You are muted.
Yvette,
yeah.
Yes. Let's see if we can unmute.
Okay, there we go. I wanted to let you know that I may have to leave. They're testing our buildings, PCR test. So I'll have to leave for a little bit.
No problem at all. I've just run down and had my test as well.
Where are you, Yvette, if I may ask?
What am I?
Yeah. Where in the world are you?
Where? I am in Changchun.
Uh-huh. Oh,
North.
that is the north, right? Yeah. How's the situation going there? I think numbers are slowly going down.
Oh, it's going down, but we're still all locked down.
It's tight, isn't it? Yeah.
They don't even want us to still go out of our buildings, but people are.
I got one student from my year 12s. She is in Changchun, and I know she's been for a long time there. Yeah, and I can see that she is feeling a little under the weather, let's say.
Yeah, it's 7 weeks.
Wow, 7 weeks.
Here in, yeah, we are in Suzhou. We are here in Suzhou, and well, things are getting so. We are getting more and more cases slowly. So we also have like daily tests, and let's see.
Yeah,
so frustrating.
It is, but I mean, yeah, especially for you if you're locked in, that's horrible. We are still able to get out and about.
Oh wow!
But it's getting closer. Different areas are closing down. Yeah. Close, very close. Yeah. So I'm sure my wife will be wanting me to go out shopping after this.
Oh, yes.
If only, she says, yeah. All right.
I didn't hardly believe. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. We've still got another minute.
No, I was just going to say I didn't hardly bring any summer clothes, and I need to get some summer clothes. So I'm going shopping.
Enjoy if you can, yeah. Well, obviously the link is working because, sorry, how do I say your name? Is it Yvette or?
Yvette.
Yvette, French. Okay. Yeah, it must be working because you've clicked on okay. But, so maybe you can tell us a bit about your background, Yvette, just before we get started then. So I know you're up north, and maybe why did you want to come to this session? Yeah.
Well, I am really a university counselor. I have been for 18 years. And I guess they're having trouble getting people here. So I am going to have to teach English B. And I do not know much about IB. I have learned so much these past few months, but I haven't taught in, like I said, 18 years.
Well, I think you've come to the right place.
I mean, I was an English teacher. Yeah. Yeah, the English, the head of English department, she sent me these links for me to explore.
That's good. You'll definitely get a lot from this session. Well, I'm hoping you will, and it will give you ideas in what and how you could prepare or scaffold for the students in your English B course. Yeah, I've taught English B before. Inez, have you taught English B as well? Or
Spanish B?
I have
Spanish
never taught. I taught Texas American English for 11th grade IB DP1. So I have never. No.
Okay.
No.
Well, hopefully you'll get a lot from
mean,
this session and the other sessions, I'm sure.
My DP, I mean, right.
So you're just cutting in and out. All right, Yvette, Inez, I'm going to make a start because I'm sure people are going to just tune in to the recording later. So I'll share my, well, first of all, I just want to say welcome to this presentation on explicitly using language objectives in our curriculum. I'm Tony Qureshi. I'm the head of EAL at Dulwich International High School in Suzhou. I've been at this school now for close to 2 years, but I've been involved with ELSA for a good 7 or 8 years. So it's been a fantastic journey, and the journey is continuing. So I'll just share my screen with you all now. And we can get started.
I can just introduce myself very quickly while he is showing the screen.
My partner
My
in
name
crime.
is Ginés Bernal. I'm from Spain, and I've been Spanish language teacher for more years that I can remember, and I have experience with the IB as well. So maybe later I can offer any help that you want, Yvette.
That's great.
They're blowing stuff. I'm gonna mute myself.
Sure, no problem. Yeah, Inez will be my right-hand man. He'll be able to monitor the chat and answer any additional questions as well, if needed. All right, are we good to go? Brilliant. So I've already just introduced myself. So this is the presentation that we're talking about today. So the goal is talking about language objectives and how we can create them and how we can embed them into our curriculum. And I'll also talk to you about what works well for me and Inez in our school. So we'll talk about the what. So what are language objectives? The why. Why do we need them, and how? This is the crucial part of how we can create language objectives and how we can implement them in school. The next steps very much on what we've done here at Dulwich International High School, Suzhou. What have we done to try to push and drive the language objective idea forward? So I've got some examples, I've got some feedback from staff at our school, and if we get some time, Q&A. Okay, so without further ado, all right. So which statement best represents you, Yvette? Are you an A, a B, or a C? Maybe just type in the chat, or you could just unmute yourself and tell us.
B.
You are a B, yes. Okay, so you know what you're going to be doing, and it's going to be one of your roles then to create language objectives, not only in your subject, but also to share this with other members of staff in your school. Is that right? All right, let's keep going. So hopefully everything we talk about today is going to support you with that. And everyone else who will listen to us later. Okay, so before we go into language objectives, let's just look at what is a content objective. We all know content objectives, we all use them, but the content objective is generally the what, i.e. the what students will be able to know and what they'll be able to do at the end of the lesson. That's fine, but the question is, they know what to do, but do they know how to do it, or what language they need to show their learning? So that's where we use the language objective. And this is a description, and it will show students exactly what language they need to demonstrate their learning and demonstrate their understanding in the class. So what we'll do now is I'll take you through a model that we use, and I'll show you how we do that. But first, what do you think mainstream teachers, or how do mainstream teachers feel about including language objectives? So maybe, yeah, just post in the chat or unmute yourself and share. I know this is new to some of you, but what do we think teachers will feel about this?
I think they're needed. I mean, you have to have objectives for your kiddos.
Absolutely, but the question is do we need language objectives or just a content objective? Why do we need both?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so sometimes when I approach teachers and I suggest or encourage for language objectives, sometimes I get this. You know, so some teachers feel like, oh, they get frustrated. We have content objectives, there are language objectives, there's talk of cultural and culture objectives. When does it stop? When does it end? And some teachers feel it's a bit much, and sometimes it can be a burden to some. But the question is, so we've talked about what is a language objective. Now, the why. Why do we need them? Why are they so crucial? Well, the content tells us the what students need to know, and the language, how students will use language to demonstrate their learning, to communicate their learning. And this is what I like about it. It really does ensure that we are adding a language, a focus to all of our lessons. So the answer is yes, we definitely need both. We cannot deliver content without focusing on language. They go hand in hand. And this is what I try and explain to staff that I work with as well. We can't be doing one without the other, because they are just interlinked so much. There's a link on this slide to a really good resource and a good article, and I'll share this with everyone later as well. So other reasons why we need to focus on language objectives. On the international scene, our classrooms are highly multilingual, multicultural. We need to be focusing on in specific English language as well as the content. Our classes are very inclusive. And as soon as we do focus on the language objective, it does give that language lens to the classroom, and it does promote language in every single lesson across the whole school, if we have them embedded across the school. And I'll talk more about that a bit later. And it encourages all of our teachers to be teachers of language. And we've seen this phrase thrown around a lot, but yes, all teachers who work in international schools should also be not only have their content specialist, but also be a language specialist as well. They don't necessarily need to be a specialist, but they need to be open to delivering language in their class as well. Of course, we need materials, scaffolded materials, and other EAL strategies as well. So as soon as we have a language objective, it means you are thinking about scaffolding and you're thinking about EAL strategies. And all these things are crucial in a student's language development. So here's just an example. There's a content objective to learn about some of the factors that have caused globalization. Okay, yeah, great. Nice content objective. But without a language objective, students are unclear about what they're supposed to do with this content. Are they going to give a presentation? Are they going to write an article? Are they going to discuss? That's what we need to be a bit more explicit about. So it says nice, it's put nicely here. If we want students to learn academic language and content at the same time, which is our goal, then we need to set these goals and be explicit about teaching both. Okay, how are we going to do this? So one such approach, this is a common approach, but I've seen very different ways of doing it, is a 4-part framework. Now, the more you use the framework and the more you model it, the easier it will become, not only for you, for your colleagues, but also for students to recognize their language objectives when they see it. So let me show you. So what is this model? Here it is. All right, so as you can see, it's very visual, it's very colorful, and there are 4 domains that we use to build our language objectives. Verbs, action verbs. This is crucial. I always start with the verb. What do I want students to do? Subject content. Let's be specific about what students are going to do with the language. Language detail. Now, this is where we could add an element of being really specific with that language. What do we want students to be saying or doing with the language? I will give examples. This is just a quick overview. And finally, the last one, support. How are we going to support or scaffold for our EAL students, our multilinguals? Now, to create the language objective, you could create a very succinct language objective just using 3 of these: the verbs, the action verb, the subject content, and the language detail. But ideally, I would always recommend adding that support as well. As you can see, there's just an example on the board of a language objective. Students will use the past tense to orally summarize the main effects of the Wall Street crash of 1929, as shown in the graphs and images. All right, I won't go into any more detail there, but I will move on to the next slide. So what I'll do now is I'll go through each domain of the 4-part framework. So the first domain, let's focus on that action verb. What do we want students to do? Now, in our classes, our students no doubtedly are going to be using all 4 skills: listening, speaking, reading, writing. But it's always highly recommended that we focus just on one. Just on one. So when we're creating that language objective, we'll focus on just one skill. So what this does, it just puts an emphasis on that one skill, and the students know they're going to be discussing. They know they're going to be exploring or asking and answering. They know they're going to be choosing. That's what I like about this slide here. This was adapted from Making Content Comprehensible for English Language Learners, a book that I thoroughly recommend. Because when teachers are making language objectives, we don't always want to be saying to speak or to read, to write. If you have a look at these action verbs on the slide, these are very much tier 2 words, which students are going to hear across all subjects. So it's good to explore and play around with lots of different words as well. All right, let me show you some examples. Okay, so the second part of the language objective doesn't always have to be in this order, but is the subject content. Often I see language objectives where the subject content isn't clear. But as you can see on the example on the slide, we need to specify the topic that students are going to be learning about. Students will know what they are using the language for. So let's have a look at number 1, the art, an example from art. Students are going to describe. Now, I could have been more specific there and said they're going to be students to orally describe or to describe in writing. That is their action. So they're going to describe. Subject content is the use of texture in art. So there is half of a language objective for an art lesson. And it shows you what students are going to do. They're going to be describing, and they're going to be describing about the use of texture in art. So in geography, we've got the example, they're going to discuss. So we know they're going to be discussing orally the push and pull factors in migration. We've also got examples from biology and history there as well. So the key is we're focusing on the action verb and the subject content. Next, language detail. Now, the language detail is great. This is where our understanding as a English language specialist would come in. But if we don't have that expertise, no problem at all, because we've got some ideas here. Or if in doubt, you can always ask for support from your English language learning specialist in your school. So back to the art example, we're going to write a short paragraph. There's your specific language. It's a short paragraph. We could go into more detail as well, describing the use of texture in art. Let's have a look at number 3. They're going to listen, that's their skill, to listen to a short video about gas exchange in plants. There's your subject content. And what language are they going to use? They're going to make bullet points about the key points. So that's their specific language. They're just going to be focusing on identifying key points and bullet pointing them. If we look at number 2, the specific language is they're going to use tentative words, possibly, maybe, these modals, might, could, may. This is really nice. If we explicitly warn students of the language they're going to use, they can actively focus on achieving that goal and not talking about a lot of other things. They know this is the goal of the lesson. I'm going to show the teacher that I can use this language. Yeah, so if you look on the right, the language detail could be to use the past tense, to write in full sentences, to include 3, 4, 5 paragraphs. Or it could simply be to use the tier 3 words or the academic words provided by the teacher. It could be sequence words, linking words, other type of grammatical structures. So that's just an idea of what we can do. Okay, so moving on. The last part of the domain, the 4-part domain or the 4-part framework, is the support. So now just have a look. I always highlight the support in this purpley color, and it gives me an idea of how I'm going to support the students, and also the students know what support and help they're going to get to achieve their goal. So the art example, students are to write a short paragraph describing the use of texture in art using keywords, and this is their support from a word list. So we're not just asking them to write a paragraph describing the use of texture in art. We're telling them exactly how much to write. We're giving them an idea on size and quantity, and we're also giving them vocabulary on a worksheet, perhaps, that could be used as a scaffold given to specific students. Okay, number 2, the scaffold is they're going to be working in pairs. They're going to be discussing in pairs the push and pull factors in migrations using tentative words like possibly and maybe. So we cover all 4 parts of the language objective. If we move down to number 4, students are going to orally share their opinions. So students know they're going to be speaking, they're going to be giving their opinions about the main factors that influence the abolishment of the slave trade. So this is an example from history, maybe. But how are they going to do, what language will they use? They're going to use opinionated language. And again, the scaffold just comes from sentence starters provided by the teacher. But then as a teacher, you know, right, okay, I need to make sure I have those sentence starters. I need to make sure I scaffold and explicitly focus on the language of opinions, giving students the opportunity to practice before they go to their final task, which will be to show their learning of this objective. I would also add, it's crucial that we give students the opportunity to use their first language here as well. Why can't, this is the language objective, and students will need to express in English that they can do it. But wouldn't it be great as well if we could also encourage students to do this in their first language as well? So not only are we developing their English, we're also maintaining and continuously developing their first language as well. Translanguaging, there are many other workshops today about translanguaging, but I would definitely recommend going along to some of them as well. Okay, so I've gone through the structure of the language objectives that we are using in our school. This is an A5 poster or display that we give to all staff members in our school. I printed them out and I slapped them on everybody's desk and I said, look, if you want to work together, let's work together. but have a look and what do you think? So that's just made available for everyone in our school. Okay, so we've talked about the how to create the language objectives, but then what next? We've got the language objective. We know we want students to be discussing or arguing or writing, but then we need to think of what additional supports and strategies can we use to support this, to support students. Now we have a big book of EAL strategies or language-based strategies. And I'm always encouraging staff to have a look through this book and which strategy is going to support their language objective. So if we want students to discuss, then we could look in the strategy list playbook and look for all the speaking strategies, all the discussion strategies, and then staff can choose one that they want to choose and trial it. I always say model it first as a teacher. Model what a good example of this, of a successful language objective, what you want students to do, you model it so they can see, okay, that's what it looks like, that's what it sounds like. Also, work with an EAL teacher in your school or with another colleague, collaborate, and then come back and reflect. Think about the positives, what went well with using this language objective. So it's really good to work with others and trial it. Just some other things about what we're doing in our school. We have EAL champions in each department, and it is their job, their role, they're volunteered to advocate for English language learning in their subjects. So one example would be, they would be introducing the language objective or helping staff in their department with the language objective. So yeah, it's still a work in progress, but we are definitely moving in the right direction. We also offer a 16-hour PD course on language literacy and learning. And we usually have 2 cohorts a year. So we're getting lots of staff come through this program thinking about language. And language objectives are at the top of everything, because all the strategies staff are learning on this course can be embedded into these language objectives. Every week, we have weekly staff collaboration corner. And this is where staff just come together. They can support each other in planning for language or including some of the tips and strategies that support language development. And it's really nice to see this collaboration in action, as you can see just in the picture on the screen. That was the last time we were actually all together. But yes, these are just things we are doing. Now, if it's something you're serious about, then I would recommend making a year-long action plan that you could first start in a department and then move to whole school. Now, we've started this in the middle of term 1 in our English department, and we are now moving into term 3. We've had lots of obstructions and hurdles, but the key is we've mapped it out of what we're going to do and when we're going to do it, who's going to do it, for how long, and we're there supporting each other all the way. This isn't the full action plan, but I will share this full action plan in the folder, which with all the other materials. And it's nice to have this action plan in place. All right, so just some feedback from staff within our school. This was an attempted language objective from a year 11 teacher to write a 50-word paragraph using 5 of the new words correctly. And that was a start, okay? I gave that the thumbs up and I said, just go with it. The students know what they're going to do. They know what action, and they know what the subject is. We could have been more specific on the subject, a 50-word paragraph about, and be specific. But then, as you could see, there's a student example there, and then it's followed by the teacher has reflected as well. And this is what I like. The teacher's gone away and reflected. Positive. This teacher scaffolded further as well. She used a vocabulary strategy to support the 5 key words. And then she used a speaking strategy, teach one, give one. And then another vocabulary strategy, backs to the board. And she had the language objective explicitly visible on the slide of each, on each slide of her presentation as well. So that was some positive feedback there. Here's another one from a year 12 English class. And this member of staff started, as you can see, there was their lesson objective: to synthesize your understanding of your events and characters of the novel 1984. Okay. However, there's no scaffold in there, there's no language element. So then this member of staff went away and put the model into action to summarize the main events using sequence words. And the scaffold was using a plot chart so they can list these events. So I'm not sure what that was, but I'm thinking it was a visual where students then put their sequences into different boxes on a chart. Okay, then they went away and developed this further. Maybe this was an objective for the next lesson: to identify the character's feelings using short sentences at the different key plot points on a plot chart. Okay, and the feedback come across as positive again. Language objectives were beneficial for students in terms of clarity of what was going to happen. And it also helped the teacher plan for language-related activities. And for me, that's key. This is what the language objective does. It gives you the opportunity to go away and think, okay, how are we going to support? How are we going to scaffold? Here's another example. Students are able to ask and answer a variety of questions using comparative superlative adjectives using the language support document, which means the teacher here gave this was actually mine. I gave students just sentence starters, keywords, phrases, and then I wanted students to use these as they discussed in pairs. All these slides will be shared. I know I've gone through quite quickly the last few, but you'll have time, I promise. So just some more general feedback. What staff liked. The color coding, it's nice. We know whenever that we see a yellow, it's an action verb. The green means the content. And students and staff get familiar with that, and they appreciate that familiarity. Let's keep them short and simple, precise, not overly wordy, and that can be quite difficult. Bullet point the objectives. We did trial bullet pointing them, but then I think we went back to keeping them as sentences. The last point is really important, keeping it visual throughout the lesson. Whatever stage of the lesson students are at, they need to be able to see that what the language objective is, as well as the content objective. So keeping it visible will really help. All right, just on my penultimate slide, there's a QR code here. It would be great to hear some of your feedback. So please just scan that code and then share some feedback for me. It'll be great. We've got a few minutes left. So if you do, we've got a 15-minute break now, actually. So if you do have any questions, you can ask and answer right now. I'm happy to stay for a few more minutes. But I'll stop sharing my screen, come back to and see you guys. All right. Well, thank you so much for listening through that. I felt like I was a bit of a train going straight through it, but 30 minutes done. Is there any questions? Anything we can help you with?
No. My English skills from 18 years ago is coming back, or as far as definitely has changed as far as how the teaching is. So you definitely have given me some ideas on how I can help even organize myself, let alone for the kids too, so that's very helpful.
No, it's been my pleasure.
It's going to be
I think
learning experience.
The IB syllabi that we have and the language is very general. We are not given this level of specifics in in the curriculum. So they just say, okay, you need to cover these grammar points. You need to cover these 5 different area topics about health, about if it's in my languages, health, fitness, youth matters, all those trendy kind of adapted to the young audience topics. But we don't have this level of detail. We need to create it. So I think this framework can work very powerful on your in your subject, and it can make you. Obviously, you have material, you have books, you have resources that expand all that, and they're usually well done, well printed. But when you have to face that lesson that is coming, when you have this material and you want to really pin it down so you know what those 50 minutes are going to look like, you need to get this to get effective really. And it can help you with your subject, but it can make a larger impact in the school. Most of the teachers I know, IB, economics IB or science IB, they're always complaining about the students not being able to fully express themselves or the way they want. In economics, they cannot write a decent essay or a study case because they're lacking that formal language. And that's because they focus on content. So this can be only used by you in your lessons, or you can think about creating a larger impact in your department or in the whole school. It can be a project that can rally forces. That's what's happening with Tony and in our school. And we're trying to get all the collaboration that we can.
That sounds like, that sounds like a good plan.
For me, it is. Yeah, I was going to say the collaboration is key. So Yvette, if you could work with a colleague in planning these objectives, that is really strong. And then if you can then share those feedback with other members in your team, it just grows. It grows. And it's nice just to see that development. And you feel good because you know you're focusing not only on the content, but you're adding that language lens to your lesson. You really are giving students, right, by the end of this lesson, by the end of these 3 lessons, you're going to walk away being able to use this language, this language, this language to do this, this, and this. Then you can pull away the supports. They can be taken away, can't they?
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
No, my pleasure. Thank you for tuning in. It's nice to have, yeah, it was nice to have you. You've got my email address as well. So if you do have any other questions, you can reach out to myself and Hines as well. We're here as always.
I probably will. Thank you.
Yeah, no, do it. I mean that. Please do. Okay, I'll end the recording now then and the call. Thank you both so much for your time. Enjoy the rest of the conference. It's going to be amazing. The next one starts in 11 minutes. Get on the schedule, have a look. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care.